Come on. Let me come on. He goes on. All right. Good morning, everybody. Make sure I got my button unmuted. So we got to the Mishnah yesterday on Tzadi Ches Amud Beis, and we're going to start from the Mishnah. And away we go. Chamesh nashim shenis arvu v'adoseyam. So there were 5 women that they each, they were married. They had other kids, and then they had kids again, and their children got mixed up. They didn't know whose was whose. So nobody actually knew who their brother was, who their actual brother was. So if these ones were mixed up, we don't know exactly who their mothers and brothers are. And then they got married to women who and they died. So now you got 5 remaining brothers, but they don't know who's who. So what do you say? So Umesu, Arba, Cholzin. So first 4 do chalitza. Sure, thank you so much. 10 ounces. So first 4 do chalitza to one of them. The echad miyabim oisa, and then the other one does yibum afterwards, because in other words, that right? No, everyone is allowed to go ahead and really marry any one of the women, but the women obviously need to do yibum or chalitza first. They can't marry somebody else first, so therefore they need chalitza from all the others before they go ahead and marry the last one. And then when it comes to woman number 2, so the guy who just did yibum, he does chalitza to that one, and then 3 others do chalitza. Then the last one can do yibum. He doesn't have to. He could do yibum, right? And it turns out each one gets 4 chalitzas first, and then the final one can be a yibum if they so choose. Zak the Gemara v'daf chamichlas v'hadar yivumi. Not this dafka that goes necessarily have to do chalitza first and then yibum. By yivumi b'reisha, no, you can't do yibum b'reisha, because let's say the guy wasn't really his brother and he tries to do yibum, and really it's not yibum, it's a mitzvah. Dekapaka b'yavam meshuk. Then she's actually marrying somebody else, and not her yavam. So my hu b'shusha chalitza nachas, right? So why does it say first, the guy who does yibum and then the 3 others do chalitza? Why don't you just say that maybe one guy can do yibum to all of it? So don't say that one should do yibum to all of them. Rather, each one does yibum to one of them. Why? Perhaps then each one will be fit and will end up doing yibum for their own, right? Which is very unique if you think about it. So basically, if one guy does yibum to all 5 of them, then one of them is vadai doing a mitzvah, right, as opposed to all 5 having a 20% chance. So it's very interesting that the Gemara chooses, or that the svara is that perhaps each one will be doing the mitzvah versus one of them vadai doing the mitzvah. Interesting, right? You got right? Yes, 20%, right? So mitzasan achin and mitzasan shein achin. Right, a minority of them are brothers, majority of them are not brothers. We'll soon see what that means. Ha'achin cholzin, the brothers of chalitza v'she'enachim yavin. The ones who are not brothers can do yibum. My kamar, what does that mean to say? Some of Safra ha'achin kamar, this means to say miktasan achin mina av, miktasan achin mina aim. So there's some of them are paternal brothers and some of them maternal brothers. So achin mina aim. So we say achin mina aim cholzin. So they're the ones who do the chalitza, because remember, if it's just a maternal brother, is no mitzvah. And then the ones who are paternal brothers, they can end up doing potentially even afterwards. If some of them are kohanim and some of them are not kohanim, so the issue is going to be kohanim chotzin, that the kohanim do chalitza shein kohanim, because they can't go ahead and do yibum after all the others do chalitza, because they become a chalutza. Because if it's not their their sister-in-law, then it turns out and the real brother-in-law did chalitza. It turns out this Kohen is marrying a chalutza. So the Kohanim chotzin, they go into chalitza sheni Kohanim, but the ones who are not Kohanim they can do yibum. Miktasan Kohanim, miktasan achin mina aim. If some of them are Kohanim and the other ones are only maternal brothers, elu ve'elu chotzin lo b'yavin. None of them, nobody's able to do yibum. Each one all has to do chalitza. Fine. Turn the page. Now, today's daf. Tana Rabbanan, very interesting brisa with 3 interesting cases. Good job, Ryan. Tana Rabbanan. Yesh choletz le'imo misafek, la'achaysa misafek, le'bito misafek. A person could potentially do chalitza to his mother. We were required to do chalitza to his mother as a suffix. We'll soon see how, or to his sister, or to his daughter. Ketzad. So what's the first case? Imo v'isha acheres, if his mother and another woman, and they have already, they have two boys. The chazru, the yaldu shnei zachar b'machava. Then her and his mother and this woman, they each already have sons. They go off and they have two other boys in seclusion, right? So one of these boys are actually his brother, and one is not. There's the other ladies. And then, right, the original sons go ahead and do, and they marry each one marries the other woman, right? The other woman, and this one marries the other one. And then they die without children. So now you have the two sfekos. One of them they have to do, there's a suffix of which one's their brother, which one they have to do yibum or chalitza to. So therefore, but one of them we know is the son, right, of the woman, right? So he's the son of the woman, right, who has two children. So zechol it's a shtem, the zechol it's a shtem. So each one, since we don't know which one is, right, whose mother it was, each one is chalitza. It turns out that each one is doing chalitza to his mother misafik. Fine, similar case. What about, how does he do yibum with his sister? So his mother and another woman, they each have sons, and they go off and they have two daughters, right, in seclusion, right, in hiding, and we don't know, right, whose daughter is whose. Ubo achem, and the brothers go ahead. Shaloi me'oisa aim v'nasu, and then the brothers, right, in other words, not with the same mother, but only their brothers from their father, right, from a different mother. So then they go ahead and they marry these two girls. And their husbands die. So now these two sveikos fall to the other two brothers. They have to chalitza to both of them. Turns out that he's going to be doing chalitza to his sister misafik, because we don't know which one was his sister and which one was his brother's wife. And labita misafik ketzad. And what about the case of one could potentially do chalitza to his daughter? So ishto, the isha acheres sheyaldu shnei nekevas machava. So one's wife and another woman go ahead and give birth to two daughters b'machava, and hiding bo achayim, and their brothers go ahead v'nasu, right? And the brothers go ahead and they marry these two girls, right, who are permitted to them. They die without children, so they have to eat mechlitza. So each one does chalitza to one of them, because one of them is potentially his daughter. We don't know which one it is, because remember, it was his wife who gave birth to one of the kids, and therefore one of the women falling to him, because it was one of them was his brother's wife. It could have been that it was his daughter who was the one who his brother married. And Tanya, it is possible for the Isha Pamim Shemoldin Chamesh Umois, they could have 5 children, each one being their own lineage. How so? Ketzad. So Yisrael Shalakach Aved V'Shivcha Min HaShuk. Yisrael, he went ahead and he bought an Aved Shivcha Min HaShuk. In other words, they are regular Ovei Kuchavim. V'Lahen Shnei Banim. They have 2 kids. So the 2 kids, both Ovei Kuchavim. One of them converts. Nimsa. So far it turns out Echad Ger. One is the Ger, he just converted, right? The Echad Ovei Kuchavim. The other one is an Ovei Kuchavim. Now he tvilon. Now he goes there and he tivels them and he makes them an Evet Shivcha. In other words, he bought them before they were just they're Ovei Kuchavim. Now he made them Evet Shivcha, right? And so far they have 2 kids. One's a Ger, one's Ovei Kuchavim. L'shem Avdus. Right? And they went ahead and they had a child. Harei Kan, not what do they got? A Ger, Ovei Kuchavim, the Evet, and now they have an Evet. Shichras HaShivcha, he frees the Shivcha, but his Evet is still an Evet. Ubalel, then the Evet is Ba on this Bas Yisrael, right? She's a Shivcha. Ubalel, Ha-Evet, Rabala Evet, Harei Kan. Now you got a Ger, Ovei Kuchavim, the Evet, Umamzer. And this is a mamzer. Now we'll soon see that this shita is going to hold thing is an Eved. It's not the Chavi Lavin, but what's called an Eved with a Yisraelis, right? Okay. Right, would be a mamzer, right? So give Avi Chaim Eved mamzer. Now Shichur Shneim. Now he finally frees the Eved. So now they're both converts, right? Mm-hmm. They're both freed slaves. But you see, they marry one another. Zevzeh, Harei Kan, Ger, Lekechavim, the Eved, Umamzer, and the final one is a Yisrael. So it turns out that this couple has 5 kids who are from 5 different umas. Samai Kamash Balon, so what's come teachers, Avichavim, the Eved, Samai Kashan. So is it take that out or no? Yeah. So Avichavim, the Eved, Haba Ba. So either an Avichavim or an Eved who's Ba Bas Yisrael, Havlad, Mamzer. Then in such a case, the Vlad would be a Mamzer. Fine. Now, turn about another unique case, right? Speaking of unique cases, Yesh Meicher es Aviv legavas imo ksuvasa. There is a possible for a person to go ahead and have to sell his father to go ahead in order for his mother to collect her ksuba. Ketzad, how so? Yisrael lokach eved shifcha min ashuk. If you have Yisrael, he went ahead and he purchased an eved shifcha min ashuk. Vlahen ben, and they have a son. The shicher es shifcha. Then he goes ahead and he frees the shifcha. Vanasa, and then he goes ahead and he marries her, right? He marries her because she's a freed shifcha, so he can marry her. The Amad, because of Kol Nechasel of Benav. And then he writes, you go ahead and your ksuba, all of them will go to, they'll be given over to her son. So Nim says, Zeh Meicher, and now then the son inherits everything. His father dies, he gets everything. So Nim says, Zeh Meicher es Aviv, they gave us Ima Ksubasa. Now, they come divorce, he has to go ahead and pay the ksuba, but he wrote everything off to her son. So now she needs her ksuba. So who does she go collect it to? She has to go ahead and collect it from the son. The son doesn't have any money, but the son inherited, because he was Yisrael, the son inherited the Eved, which was his father. So it turns out that the son sells his father, so his mother can go ahead and collect her ksuba. So my kamash balon. So what's come? Teaches Kula Rav Meir, either all Rav Meir, Avda Metalti, and the Eved is considered Metalti Mishtav the Ksuba. Eved is considered to be movable objects, and movable objects are, I guess you can put a lien upon movable objects in order for a woman to collect Ksuba, or if Iboy Sema, or you can say Hakamash Balad, Avda Kamakarka Dami, right? An Eved is like a karka, and therefore only a land it can have a lien for a ksuba, and therefore the woman collects her ksuba from his slaves, and his slave he inherited in turns was his father. Therefore, he's basically selling his father to go ahead and pay off his mother ksuba. His father was an eved, right? So, and his father was owned by the owner, right? And the owner was married to the woman, and he died, and therefore, but everything was given over to her son. So therefore, since the Eved was owned by the master, so right? When he gave it over to her son, that's him. So he basically was given over before his father as his own servant. But then, when he had to pay the ksuba, he had to sell his father. So right.
So if you're an Eved, you do not own. Meaning, if you're an Eved.
Right. If Avadim have children, it goes to the master.
Everything.
Right, because they're owned by the master.
Don't keep it out. If you're
not talking Evan Kanani here.
Right.
Okay,
so not talking Evan Bishop.
Right. They're not right. They're not fully Yisrael.
Okay.
I mean, there are some things they're commanded in, but they're not.
I'm saying we're talking about an
Eved, right.
Well, the Eved is not Jewish.
Yeah, right.
Jewish.
No, then he's Eved Ivri. Then he's a full-fledged Jew.
If you're depending who the other was.
Right. No. Right. I'm saying that evidence and Eved Ivri is an Eved Ivri, right? Then right. He marries a Shefet Kanas, right? Fine. Mishnah. Naya Mishnah. Mishnah says Ha'isha shenis arev vlada v'vlad kalasa. A woman, once again, she has a child, and also her daughter-in-law has a child, her kalasa, and they get mixed up together. She's Vlad kalasa. Now higdilu hatarovas. Now these two who are mixed up, we don't know who's. They grow up. The nasu, nashim, they marry women, umesu, and they die. So bnei hakala. So the sons of the kala, chotzin v'lo. They can only do chalitza na'ibim. Why? It could be their Yavam, the one they're supposed to do even to, or Safek Eishes Achi Avi, or it could be their father's brother's wife, which is an aunt. And we know that one cannot go ahead and marry his father's brother's heir, right? So it only goes upwards, and therefore that would be forbidden. Now, B'nei Zakena, but the older one, right? He can do chalitza or yibam. Why? Shesafek eishes achiv, because it could be either his yivama, or it could be the eishes ben achiv, or his nephew's wife, which is mutter, right? So going down is mutter, going up is also. So therefore, that's the difference. Why the one could potentially marry his niece versus one who could potentially marry his aunt, which is also. Mesu ksherim. So if the ksherim one will soon see the ksherim are the ones who we know who's their mothers, right? Hataroives lebnei azakena cholzin v'lo miyavim. So therefore, it will be opposite. So if they went ahead and died, so the ones the tarovis, the ones we don't know who their mother was, lebnei azakena, to the ones of the older one chotzin v'lo miyavim, they go and do chalitza na'ibim. Why? Choose suffix eishes achiv. Right, because it's a suffix of eishes achiv, the eishes achi aviv. And also the wife of his father's brother, Bnei Kala, but those who are the children of the Kala, right? So they can go ahead. They can do Yibam Chalitza, because once again, the only potential is to be lower down a niece, and therefore would be okay. Now, new case. Now it gets a little easier. Kohenes shenis arev vlada bevlad shivchasa. You have a Kohenes that got mixed up with the Vlad of her Shifcha. So one is a Kohen, and the other one is a slave, right? Owned by the Kohen family. They can both eat Truma, because either way, either you're a Kohen or you're owned by a Kohen, which you can eat Truma. But if they go to they only get one portion at the Goren, because we know there's a machlokes as to when they go to the granary to get to the Goren, who goes ahead and gets the portion of Truma. We only get to the Kohanim. We don't necessarily give to an Eved of a Kohen, and because he doesn't get his own portion, rather they just eat from the portion of their master. They're allowed to eat it, but they don't get their own portion. So therefore, if they go together, one of them is for sure a Kohen. Therefore, they can go ahead at least get one portion. The Einan Matami Lamason, but they can't be Matami Lamason because it potentially could be a Kohen, right? Even though an Eved can become Tame, but the Kohen cannot. Nashim. The truth is, there's no one who they can marry. Ben Kesheros, Ben Psulos. They can't marry Ksheros because they might be an Eved, and they can't marry Psulos like a Shivcha because they could be a Kohen. We'll see. Right, right. Now, Higdilu, when they grow older, he's Taraves, right? When these two grow up, what they should do is really they should free one another. So in that case where they do free one another, in other words, we don't know who's freeing who, but okay, one gives one letter, gets shikhr, and the other gives the other one letter. So one of them obviously is working, and the other one just remains the Kohen that he was before. So now one of them is a Kohen, and the other one is basically Yisrael. Or is he Yisrael, right?
I mean, they should just look, if the kid's black, they'll know.
Yeah, okay, good. Saying good. Noisin, Nashin, so what are they at? Now, Noisin, Nashin, Royce, the Kahuna, they can each one marry someone who's fit to the Kahuna. In other words, they can marry a regular Yisrael. They know Matam Mason, but they kill stamp. They cannot.
They have to marry somebody.
But I'm saying, right.
In other words, they can't marry Grusha, they can't marry Chalutzas, because they have to assume.
Well, they could be a Kohen. It's a Suffolk Kohen, right?
It's not, they have to marry somebody who's Kohen.
Well, okay, true. I said it wrong, right? But they marry somebody who's fit lacuna. Fine, very good, thank you. They don't become the Mason. They can't become the Mason because one of them is a Kohen. We don't know which one. They need to know. However, if they do become Tamei, they don't get Malchus because you can't prove that he was the one who's the Kohen. They don't eat Truma because he could be Israel. However, they do go ahead and eat it. Right? You can't go ahead and make them pay because once again we have the rule of Hamas of Araya, and therefore, unless you bring proof that this guy owes money, you can't extract money from him. We don't give them a portion in the Gairan and the granary to go ahead and Truma because it could be Israel. They can go ahead and they sell Truma to others, right? Because in that case, once again, you say, hey, sold it. Right, prove to me that I'm not, that I'm not the Kohen, that I wasn't able to sell it. However, we don't give a chelik in Kachim because it could be Israel. They nice and Kachim. However, we can't extract the Kachim from them because they prove to me that I'm not a Kohen. And also, they don't have to go ahead and give, even by chulin, they go ahead, there are portions that go to the Kohanim. However, you cannot extract that because unless you prove to me that I'm not a Kohen, I can keep it. And if they have a Bechor, yeah, Roya Achi Staiv, nice and love, right? And then if they have a Bechor, then you have to let it go ahead and graze until it develops a mum, then they can keep it. The nice and love, as you've been saying before, Chaimrei, Kohanim, Chaimrei Yisrael. We give both Chumras, and the person could be a Kohen or it could be Yisrael, and depending how it plays out, we always go to that suffix Chum. Now,
like for the next future generation, the next generation will have the same problem.
Right. We'll soon see. We'll soon see for Malaluyuchsan or not. Right.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, how do you fix it? Because there's always going to be something for Kuna there, and that's the one
Right.
that girls.
Right.
Well,
Mary Mamzer. Right. Then you know
they
they choose.
can't, that's us.
No, I'm saying then you know they choose a Mamzer. Right. Fine. Meisu Aksherim. If the Ksherim, so we said there's the Ksherim. So the Gemara says, "So Elahinach should the Arvi Luhu Havilu Psulun." Why are you saying the Ksherim are the ones we knew whose mothers? So the other ones you call them the Psulun. This is Amar Papa Ema Umeisu Havadai. It doesn't mean the Ksherim that was that the other one you should learn are apostle. Rather, it meant that these are Vadai. We know who their Vadai mothers were. Right? Because if now we don't know who's who, and he does Yibum first, perhaps he's not the proper brother, and therefore she would be being Pagam Yibam Lashuk. And Kohenes Yisrael. Now we get to the case of the Kohen that became mixed up. So Chelak Echad. So if the two of them go, if they get one portion, obviously Pshita Ema Chelak. In other words, they get Chelak Echad. In other words, they have to go together. They got to go together to the greater, because if one of them goes, he can't give. Even if he says, "Oh, it's for my master," you can't give. If both of them come, okay, one of you are a Kohen. Therefore, here's the portion for whichever one of you is the Kohen.
It says based on household, so the whoever's going on behalf of the household to pick it up.
No, but Evid can't. So that's what it says. It's Tanan. So Tanan command Domer in Chokin Shumali, right? Elim Kain Rabo Imo. Right. This goes according to the opinion that we don't give a portion of Truma to an Eved only if his master is with him. Why? Because what's the issue? The issue is if someone testifies or some see that, hey, I saw this guy pick up Truma, he must be a Kohen. And it turns out he was an Eved picking up for his master, you might get confused, right? So therefore, we only give the portion. If we see him receive a portion, then we know it's because he's a Kohen. The Tani Lun and Bryce in Cholkin Shumale Eved, Elinkin Rabbi Imo, Rabbi Yehuda says Rabbi Yehuda, I only give we don't give Truma to an Eved, even if he says I'm just picking up my master, and here's his ID card, here's his 2.2, whatever it is, it doesn't work unless his master is with him. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi Yomer, Yachol, Sheyomer, in Kohen Ani, Tanuli, no, he could say, if I'm the Kohen, give me. B'shvilatzi for me. Be Eved, and if I'm the Eved Kohen, I need Tanili B'shvil Rabbi, give me my master. So therefore, he argues and says, no, you could give an Eved even if his master is not there. And since Rabbi Yehuda would only allow Kohanim to go ahead and receive portions of Avad, they would go ahead, and if someone was seen and two people would testify and they said, hey, this person we saw him receive Truma at the Goran, obviously he must be a Kohen. However, in the place of Rabbi Yossi, they were not being Mala people from Truma Yuchsa. So Tani learned by some Rabbi Elazar but Tzadok miyami all my days. Only one time I testified about something. Ve'alu Eved lekahuna alpi. So and not only that, so he testified about a certain Eved that was receiving Truma, and they basically made an Eved as a Kohen. So what you think that on his testimony, the one time he testified, right? There was such a takola that happened. Even the animals on tzaddikim, right? They know to eat the proper produce, so such a bad thing doesn't happen because of them. Tzaddikim asman lo koshki, and certainly bad things wouldn't happen because of the actions of tzaddikim. So Ema Bikshu, rather he says he almost did. He wanted to go ahead, he wanted to go ahead and elevate an Eved to Kuna. In other words, he wanted to testify of a certain person who was an Eved, but she didn't know that he received Truma, the Kohen Alpi. So why and how did that happen? Because he saw it occur in place of Rabbi Yossi where Avad went to head and go get. The Yosef Yasi Rabbi Yehuda, and he testified in a place where they were knowing like Rabbi Yehuda, only giving to the Kohen, so they're to Kohanim. So therefore, they almost went ahead and made it Eved until it turned out it was revealed. No, it was in a place where they also give Avadim, and therefore you cannot go ahead and establish him to be a Kohen. And Tan Rabbanan Asar in Chokin Lahem Truma of the basic granos. There are 10 people that we do not go ahead and give their own portion to the basic granos. Veiluhein. These are them: Cheresh, a deaf mute; Shaita, the cotton; Tumtum, right? Person who is neither nishtehir, right? So he doesn't have either one male or female genitalia, androgynous, or he has both, or they have both, right? All the milas, right? Va'eved, or a slave, va'isha, or a woman, va'arel, or a non-circumcised person, va'tami, a person's tummy, va'naisa, isha, shena huganas lo, or a person who married a woman that was not fit for him. In other words, he shouldn't have married her in the psula, right? Right? The kulan, mishagin lahen, lebatayim, and all of them we can go ahead. However, we send to their houses. Chutz make tummy v'naisa isha, shena huganas lo. All of them we can send a portion of their house for them, except someone who's tame, or someone who married a woman who was not fit for him. So bish lama chereshet b'katan. I understand why chereshet b'katan we don't go ahead and give lav b'nei diatni. They're not a bardas, right? And therefore, they might give it to the wrong people. They're not bardas. We don't give it to them. And tumtum and drignus nami also tumtum and drignus. Those two we don't go ahead and give also. Why? Because bria because they're not considered to be a suffix zachar, right? Their own bria, and therefore we don't give him. And Evid Nami Damascus has to give mention of Yusin. And also an Evid, I understand why we don't give it, because if one sees an Evid goes in and gets his own portion, people might think that he's Kohen. And Arel Vitame Mishum Demisi, because those are mice, and nice say Isha Shenu, even a person who married a woman who's not fit for him, let's say Grusha Chalusa Mishum Kanas, because it was a penalty to them. Ella Isha, but a woman my time alone. What's the reason why she can't go to the Gura and go ahead and receive a portion? So my time alone. So please give Rav Papa V'Ravhuna B'Rei Rav Yeshua. Rav Papa and Rav B'Rei Yeshua. Chadamar Mishum Grusha. One says maybe she was married to a Kohen, but she got divorced, and we don't know. Chadamar Mishum Yichud. Others say, look, the granary is not a popular place, and no one really goes there. If she goes there, she's going to be Yichud with the one who's go ahead and giving out the Shuma. So my benayu, what's an afkamina? Two nafkaminas. Ika benayu beidar demakre lamasa. Maybe it's a place where it's close to the town, so we'll hear whether or not she got divorced, but no one ever goes there, and therefore it could be a problem of yichud, but it's not a problem of not knowing whether she got divorced or not. Inami, or the opposite, maybe it's far away, and therefore you're not going to hear whether she got divorced or not. However, but people are always there. And therefore, such a place, they would not be able to, it would be a suffix. So therefore, that's the reason why we don't go ahead and give to a woman. All right, we'll stop here. Everybody, we officially caught up. Yeah, we did it. What time?